You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You want to sell it. Well,
I don't think you're giving us our due credit. Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
Welcome, everybody, to the monthly movie dispatch. This time we'll be recapping the month of June of 2018, starting with 5 quick shot reviews of movies we loved or hated, typically indies, or others we thought would be worth mentioning. Then we're going to move on to 3 major reviews of Incredibles 2, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and wrap up with Hereditary, and a spoiler section for that film. Then we'll end with some quick July anticipations so you'll know what to see over the course of next month and what we will most likely be reviewing next time here on Monthly Movie Dispatch. I'm your host, Nick Moffat, and with me here are my partners in crime, Brandon Bowlby.
Hey, guys.
And Sean Bowlby.
Hello.
So welcome. Let's get started. So, Brandon, how was your month of June?
Pretty great. I saw 10 movies this month from the year 2018. I also had a really good time watching the originals of the several sequels that we got this month. And I've been doing that a lot more this year than previously.
Does doing that sort of thing get you more excited about the movie you're going to see this summer?
It worked really well for Incredibles because I hadn't seen that Incredibles 1 for, I don't know, 10 years. But the original Jurassic World was pretty painful. It helps a lot to be able to compare afterwards. It's fun to like put them side by side and see how the series is going.
Yeah. Man, that first Incredibles movie is so good. So Sean, it's been a few months since we've seen you. I think since the summer movie wager episode that we did. How's your summer going?
It's going good. I find myself checking charts a lot. Almost obsessed like fantasy football people are. But yeah, it's been a ton of fun.
And you're in the lead too.
For now, know that.
yeah, no, I know, but I am. There's definitely some movies that are going to move around quite a bit.
It's actually kind of nervous being in the lead at this point because so much could change for the rest of the summer.
Yep, for sure. I think I'm definitely going to win the top 5, but it's the bottom 5 that I think could really throw it for me.
Well, the number 10 spot is the wild card. Because if someone hits the number 10, then that's just as many points as hitting the number 1. So that's what I'm going for, is the number 10 slot. Just kidding. I'm not winning that no matter what happens. So
wait. we were just thinking, like, for what, Nick, both me and you picked Ocean's 8, and for how much that's made to this point, which is $100 million, it'll probably make another like 15 or 20 million. And that's kind of right around the number 10 spot.
Yep. And I put it at number 6, which that is, I think it's hit number 6 dead on right now. It's as far as where it is. So that's pushing my score way up. And it's going to drop all the way down to probably 8, 9, or 10 at least. And you guys are probably going to come a lot closer to it. Mm-hmm. If not hit it dead on for number 10. But outside of that, I'm still just plugging along with my my westerns. I'm almost done with the 60s. Gonna move into the 70s, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, me and you just watched a western a few days ago, Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yep. I just watched the original True Grit, which was really good as well. Ton of fun.
Better?
But yeah, I'm also...
the Coens?
No. I mean, I haven't seen the Coen Brothers one in a while, but probably not. It was just a really fun movie. And I think it's the last John Wayne movie that I'm going to see. And it was it's pretty cool to see him go out on that kind of high note, at least for my viewing experience.
Did I ever tell you guys about when I was doing a Coen Brothers marathon? Like, I was trying to watch all of their movies. And so I went to the store and I bought True Grit on DVD, and I came home and I put in the DVD player, and then it turned out to be the original True Grit. And
What?
How long did it take you to find out?
it was really
Like John Wayne? What?
like pretty much like up until the movie started, because like the previews were like for old western, like, you know, old westerns and the remastered collections, and I'm like, it's kind of weird that these are the previews before this newish movie. And then the movie started and I was like, there's no way this can't be right. And then John Wayne shows up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I guess I'll keep watching this. So now on my DVD shelf, I have, you know, the box of the Coen Brothers True Grit with Josh Brolin and Matt Damon on the cover, and nope, it's the John Wayne movie that's inside of it. So, anyway, let's move on to the short reviews. We've got 5 movies today that we wanted to talk about. Brandon, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so I saw the documentary "Won't You Be My Neighbor." This is the documentary about Mr. Rogers. It starts from the beginning and goes through the entire run of his career and the show. And it's really beautiful and fascinating, and it just tells the story of like just one of the most genuinely kind men who ever lived, and him just trying to help society the best he could. And I think this is probably going to be one of the standout documentaries of the year, and I definitely recommend checking this out. I think it doesn't need to be seen in theaters, and so when it probably inevitably comes to Netflix, it'll be the perfect doc to watch.
I have to ask, the trailer was extremely emotional. Was it as emotional as the trailer made it seem?
I don't have much personal attachment to Mr. Rogers. I remember like glimpses of episodes when I was really young, but I don't remember too much of it. So there wasn't that much like sentimentality attached for me personally. But there are some scenes that are just so like kind and like so touching of like what he did that you do kind of start to get choked up. And it was really cool seeing those like special highlighted moments in his career that are just so above and beyond that it really gets to you. But the movie isn't like sad. It's like so happy you kind of like tear up.
Cool. So that's Won't You Be My Neighbor. What did you give that on Letterboxd?
I gave that 3.5 stars. Because it is so like pure and clean and well done, but I don't think it necessarily went like too far above and beyond as far as like style or telling that daring of a story for a documentary. So I think 3.5 is kind of a good medium.
You're pretty brutal, Brandon.
Hey, 3.5 is good. I mean,
Like, you know, it's good, but like everything you said about it leading up to that, it definitely sounded like a 4.5.
You know, it didn't take many chances. It's just like stock footage. Yeah. Here's his career. It's beautiful. But there wasn't anything like specifically in it that was too intricate or daring, I guess, as far as filmmaking goes.
I find it really hard to rate documentaries personally, because there are a handful that are like really creative, that subvert your expectations and, you know, surprise you on what can be done with documentary filmmaking. But most of them are just like, hey, that was a good real life thing. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. I think most are just around that 3.5 area. Like, it happened. It was interesting.
Moving on, I wanted to tell you guys about a movie called Upgrade. It's a smaller movie. It's a sci-fi action film, kind of like a mix between, I want to say, like John Wick style action and, I don't know, pretty out there sci-fi concept. I mean, it's basically like an episode of Black Mirror, except the movie fully embraces its concept, and the action is absolutely crazy and exciting, and just it goes all in on the sci-fi, and it was a fun surprise for me this month.
Totally. And the sci-fi is super clever. like the way everything looks and the set design, the way they live their lives like in the future, it's just really well realized and everything looks real and the CGI is great. For such a small indie, I think this guy had to have been thinking this up for years and years because it's like a fully realized vision. This movie could be, I think, a complete home run in so many aspects, and it is. I think it just kind of deals with more fun and more dumb storyline beats than what would be in like a top 10 movie of the year. But there's so much to love in this film, and it kind of ends in like leading towards sequel territory. And I'm so excited if this guy keeps going with the series. It would be amazing.
Yeah, so that movie is called Upgrade. I would recommend it to most people. I think I gave it 4 stars.
I gave it 4.
Cool. Well, that movie's Upgrade. It might still be in some theaters, but like I said, it was a smaller indie, and I think that it's probably left theaters by now. So keep an eye open for when it comes out on Redbox and streaming. Brandon, what's the next movie you want to talk about?
So the next film I saw is a film called American Animals. This film is a really amazing heist movie. It's kind of like a 85% real drama and 15% documentary. It cuts to these real characters who actually went to prison for this heist they tried to pull off, while like telling a full, like high quality dramatic film. And it incorporates these like real interviews in really clever ways. The whole movie has like a great sophisticated style to it, and the tension as it builds up to this what's kind of a cliche heist story is just off the charts, and you get so invested and so into what's happening. It's really like masterfully done. I gave this movie 4.5 stars. I thought almost in every aspect it was nearly perfect. And I highly recommend it. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. I've only like heard of this movie by name, but yeah, that sounds really great.
Also, fun fact: I think this is MoviePass's first film that they're distributing.
I thought that was Gotti.
Well, this
could be.
I
both,
think it's
but
both.
Yeah.
And American Animals came out first. Yeah, MoviePass Ventures distributed American Animals.
Yeah.
Oh. Moving on, real quick, I wanted to bring up, I watched a few Netflix originals this month, and they were some of the worst movies I've seen all year. You know, I've said that before with another Netflix original. Gosh, I can't even remember what it was called. Do you remember that movie I brought up like 3 months ago? It was like a time travel movie on Netflix. I saw that a few months ago, and I said that was one of the worst movies I've seen this year. Might be the worst going forward. And
Cloverfield Paradox was definitely the worst movie I've seen this year so far.
Yep.
Right, and
which you have right there, yeah.
Mute is supposed to be really bad. I watched like 15 minutes of Mute and like couldn't get through it, so I turned it off. But like I saw these 2 movies, Dude and The Kissing Booth, and like both were, you know, I wasn't expecting a lot from either of them. They both were like, you know, teen dramas, and I don't know why I just was like bored or something. I just like turned them on, and yeah, they just both were like, Dude was a lot better than The Kissing Booth in that like it actually was dealing with some big themes and like, you know, worthwhile like teen drama. But The Kissing Booth was just like the biggest pile of garbage. Like it just was the most ordinary, like boring, and I just wanted to bring them up, like not because I need to throw these movies on the bus or because they're interesting or anything like that. I just want to bring up that I feel like Netflix is not doing so well in their movies right now. Like last year at this time, I feel like there were a few movies that were worthwhile from Netflix. I mean, it's 6 months into the year. I remember last year there was I Don't Believe in This World Anymore as a big standout. Like Oakjaw came out around this time, and like
I don't feel at home in this world anymore.
Is that what I said?
No, you said believe.
I don't believe in this. I don't feel at home in this world anymore. Yeah, and they just, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Netflix is just putting out like a lot of a lot of crap right now with their original movies.
Oakjaw was so good.
Right.
Bright came out this year too, though, right?
Bright came out the end of last year, like in December.
Gross.
And that was really bad. But yeah, I mean, I don't really watch TV shows that much, so I don't really know how they're doing on the TV show front. But
They're coming out with Glow season 2.
Glow's good. Glow's really good.
Yeah, there's a few that are really good for television.
But just last year, like, I had like a competitive top 5 Netflix originals. I could have made a top 10. Like, there's at least 10 quality Netflix movies that have come out. And this year, I don't think there's been any. Like, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I just haven't seen them. But if someone out there can recommend a good Netflix original for this year, I'd love to watch it. But just, I'm just Netflix. What are you doing, man? Like, how come there's no good original movies this year? What's happening?
Yeah, it's just becoming so much content that they're buying that you no longer can just watch it because it's a Netflix movie. You have to research first before you click it, because there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
Unlike previously Meyerowitz stories and all that, like it was a stamp of quality, but not anymore.
I gave both. I think I gave Dude a 1.5 stars, and I think I gave The Kissing Booth 1 star.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Brutal.
Damn.
Moving on. Brandon, what's the next movie you want to tell us about?
So I saw this little indie dramedy called Hearts Beat Loud.
Oh, yeah. I saw a trailer for that. It looks really cool.
It's starring Nick Offerman, and it heavily takes place in this Brooklyn neighborhood called Red Hook, which is kind of a fun area to go to that the subway doesn't go. So it's kind of like this untouched little corner by the water. And it deals a lot with like writing music and this really great father-daughter relationship and dynamic. I'd say this movie like could so easily in almost every other scene have gone into like cheesy. It could have gotten sappy in almost every other scene, but right before they do, they'll either cut away or they'll salvage it. And I was just impressed over and over again throughout this movie that they're taking such a lighthearted concept, but doing it so well. And I think this is going to be like one of my top like movies just to recommend to people, because I can't see anyone walking away from this movie hating it. It's just like such a feel-good little indie.
Great. How many stars do you give that one?
I gave it a really solid 4 stars.
So that movie is Hearts Beat Loud. It's currently playing in select theaters, like it's playing at the Civ Cinema Uptown right now in Seattle. So now we're going to move on to our featured reviews. Up first, we're going to talk about Incredibles 2. Real quick, I'm going to read the description of it. Elastigirl springs into action to save the day, while Mr. Incredible faces his greatest challenge yet, taking care of the problems of his 3 children. It stars Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Bob Odenkirk, Catherine Keener, and was written and directed by Brad Bird. So, Sean, what are your first initial thoughts of Incredibles 2?
My initial thoughts were I loved this movie. I gave it right off the bat. As soon as the movie was over, I pulled up Letterboxd and popped in a 4.5 stars. I thought this movie was a ton of fun, an absolute blast to see. There were so many great action set pieces, and all the different characters were doing so many interesting and fresh things with their powers. Thinking about the movie afterwards, you kind of realize that there were a lot of plot problems, and you realize that there wasn't a whole lot to the movie, and that a lot of the decisions that they made for the movie didn't serve the movie well. But that definitely doesn't take away how much fun I thought the movie was.
Brandon, what are your... you just watched Incredibles 1. What did you think about Incredibles 2?
Yeah, I saw Incredibles 1 the night before, and I think one of the coolest things they do with this movie is how, I don't know, how long has it been? 13 years? And they start this movie the moment after Incredibles 1 ends, which is nearly impossible to do unless it's an animated film, because like half of the cast here are little children that you'd never be able to shoot 13 years later. So that is, it's like such a great back-to-back movie to watch, and I'm really happy I did that. Yeah. For these films, I guess like comparing them a little, I think Incredibles 1 is a better film. And I think Incredibles 1 is a much simpler film. And that's probably why it's a little stronger. Because there's not that many areas in that movie where it can really like falter. However, I think Incredibles 2, for how much more ambitious it was still so well done. And it had some moments that were just unbelievable for an animated movie. Sean, you brought up like the action set pieces. This movie has better action than I've seen in like film in years. Like there are some fucking good action moments. Yeah. The crazy strobe light scene, the like train chase, like those are awesome, like superhero set pieces. So that was so fun to watch for an animated movie. Brilliant. And only like Brad Bird can put something that elaborate together. Though I do think I do have some big, more overall issues, kind of like you hinted at before, that are keeping it down a little bit. And usually with sequels, people always feel the need to go bigger and push the story in a lot more directions. And I think that kind of set this movie back a little bit because they were trying to like overreach in some aspects. But overall, I loved it, and I think it's a great movie.
Yeah, so I mean, I liked this movie a lot. I guess I'm kind of with you guys totally. I thought this movie wasn't as good as the first one, but it did what makes sequels work. Like it to me did kind of the same thing that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 did, in that it didn't go that much bigger, but what it did was it spent more time on the dynamics between the characters. And so they kind of went deeper into the characters and how they related to each other and what sort of family means to them. And then it kind of went on a new adventure and new scenarios. And I mean, I thought having to be 14 years, like, even though they made the movie 14 years later, have it start up right where it left off, I thought that was a really creative choice that totally worked for it. I felt like it didn't really miss a beat in that. I liked the creative way it started off with showing the footage from the, what happened right before. And I mean, I just really loved the family dynamic. I mean, my favorite parts was when Mr. Incredible had to stay at home with the kids, even though all he wanted to do was go out and fight crime again. But he had to be a supportive husband. And at first he was really bad at it, but he, worked on being better, and he kind of learned how to be more supportive and take care of the kids better. And yeah, just for me, I'm gonna be a father soon, and it was kind of awesome seeing that. Like he's, traditionally he'd be the one going out and getting the job, or going out and fighting the crime. And Mrs. Incredible, Elastigirl, she's amazing. Like she's an amazing mom, and she's an amazing superhero. And so she's out doing the superhero stuff, and he's kind of a big dork, big weirdo, and he kind of has to like struggle with being contained and, being a father. And he like works on it though, and gets better. And I just thought that was like a really admirable like storyline to have. And I liked seeing,
he basically does. Yeah. He doesn't do anything for 95% of the movie as far as like superhero goes. He is like such a stay-at-home, he's such a stay-at-home dad, and he doesn't bust out his powers until the very final act of the film.
Yeah, and I mean, that joke that's in the trailer where he's yelling at the math book, like, why would they change math? Math is math! Like, that is just, like, one of the funniest scenes to me. It's, like, pure dad. Like, everyone's had that moment. It's just...
So, yeah, I normally don't really like babies in these kind of animated movies. I think they're pretty obnoxious. Like I'm thinking, boss baby, baby geniuses type thing. Like it's normally that kind of thing does not work at all for me, but Jack was so funny in this movie, and like it seemed like every scene with him there was something new and fun that he was doing that was just out of control and hilarious. And it just like, for some reason, I mean, because they're so talented, but it all worked, and it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, Jack's scene with the raccoon is like one of the highlights of the entire film.
Yeah.
Or like one of the best action scenes of the movie, even compared to what Elastigirl does later on. Uh-huh. But this does kind of lead into a critique I have that I haven't heard anyone really talk about, so I'm interested in what you guys think of it. I like Jack is like one of the best characters in the movie, and all of his scenes are so fun to watch. And then for me personally, we got to the climax where, like, again, the family is together, and I was looking for Jack to have a big moment, and I feel like they didn't give it to him. And we probably spent, like, there were so many countless scenes of just watching Jack and his powers developing. And I'm kind of like mind-boggled why they didn't give him like this big climactic like moment right there at the end.
Yeah, he almost had a bigger climactic ending in the first one, where like
absolutely, exactly.
He's being taken away by Syndrome, and then uses his powers.
I was shocked that they didn't go there.
Well, I think they didn't do that with all the characters though too. Like they didn't have a big fun family moment at the end of the movie where the family comes together and they use their powers together and they take out the bad guy. There's a lot of those kind of moments that I feel like the movie didn't have, especially towards the end. I thought it was a little front heavy, like as far as the action scenes.
I don't know, guys. Jack is still a baby though, right?
Like they spent so much time with him though.
From a character,
many scenes.
I know. I hear you from a plot standpoint, but from a character standpoint, he still is a baby.
Right. Logically speaking,
you're not gonna bring a baby into battle,
But there's that scene where
there's the scene where they purposefully leave the baby behind, though. Like Violet is like, "Hey, I have a shield power. I'm gonna hang out with the baby because battles aren't safe for babies."
But,
right?
See, that was undercut by the scene in the car before that, where they're trying to figure out what's their best course of action with the three kids, and they're going through what they have, and then at the very end of that moment, they look back at Jack as if it's some big reveal or some big great ticking time bomb for the climax. And then because in the car,
the very end of the movie,
before they head to the climax. They're like, we got our powers.
The Incredibile or whatever.
Yeah, and the Incredibile.
Incredible.
And right before they decide to go speed off to rescue their parents, they look back at Jack and they're like, but we got Jack's powers.
Yeah, that's true.
But then right when they get to the boat, they lock him and they try to lock him in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that whole action scene, the kids get there and you think that they're going to do something really, fun, but they're kind of, I guess we're talking about end of the movie, but they're just kind of chasing around Jack for most of that ending sequence.
Yeah.
And
that's my critique as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys didn't think the climax was that great. This is kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, except for the uncrush joke. I was laughing so hard. I was trying to hold it in to not ruin the following scene for the people sitting next to me. That joke got to me so hard.
Yeah. The movie was really funny, and it was really funny all the way through the end too. There are a lot of great moments. I also felt like the villain was pretty weak too. There wasn't. I
liked the villain a lot from an aesthetic standpoint. I thought what the villain did was pretty cool. The way he looked and his action, mind control and stuff. I thought all of that was really well done. And then for me, like when the movie ended, Andrew looked at us and, we were talking about the movie and Andrew goes, so what was the villain's motivation? And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I have a lot more to say about the villain and about that whole thing, but it gets into spoilers. So.
Yeah, and you'd just be regurgitating the Slash Filmcast anyway. So
yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, so let's move on to the next movie. So basically, we all liked it a lot. Just it sounds like you guys thought there were some problems with it that made it not as good as the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So the next movie we wanted to talk about was Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. This is the sequel to the first Jurassic World movie. Real quick, I'll read the plot summary. A volcanic eruption threatens the remaining dinosaurs on the island of Isla Nubar, where the creatures have freely roamed for several years after the demise of an animal theme park known as Jurassic World. Claire Daring, the former park manager, has now founded the Dinosaur Protection Group, an organization dedicated to protecting the dinosaurs. To help her cause, Claire has recruited Owen Grady, a former dinosaur trainer who worked at the park, to prevent extinction of the dinosaurs once again.
Does anyone have anything positive to say about the movie?
Yeah, I do.
I do.
Okay.
I hated it, but I have some positive stuff to say.
Well, I mean, okay, so I think for me, like, the plot was totally ludicrous. Like, it was like a ridiculous, like crazy, out there, what the hell is happening sort of plot. I think that even if you accept that the plot is crazy in that way, it still wasn't that contained of a plot. Like Armageddon. Like, I'm going to compare this to Armageddon because Armageddon also has a really crazy, ridiculous, what the hell is happening plot. But it's, in my opinion, it's coherent in that, and there's characters that you care about, and you're able to just be like, okay, so this is fun, it's crazy.
It sticks with it, and like it buys into it itself.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely think Jurassic World does that. It's all in on the genetic testing. Like, it's all in on the genetic testing. But I think it's also filled with plot holes. And I mean, sure, Armageddon probably has plot holes too, but like, not as many as this movie. This movie, from like scene to scene, there's plot holes. Like, it's like, how did they get from here to here? That doesn't make sense. How did they get from here to here? That doesn't make sense. Like, there's just a lot of things that in the context of the movie just don't make sense. That being said, I think this movie's pretty well directed. Like, I think that individual scenes in the movie are pretty good. Like, there's some really great dinosaur fights. Like, when the T-Rex is yelling and fighting off other dinosaurs, it's pretty cool. There's a scene that's a closed space scene where they have to get some blood from the T-Rex. He's like in a cage and they're getting blood from him. I thought that was like a really well done scene, full of like a lot of suspense and humor. Like, it was like, I thought that was a good scene. There's a really fun sequence with the Pachycephalosaurus where he's rammed into the walls and stuff. I thought was really fun. So I thought the movie.
What was it called? What?
The Pachycephalosaurus. He's the one with the big head that rams things.
Well, nice. I just didn't know people knew what that thing was called. Well done.
Good job, Nick.
I hope that's right, and I'm not just like making shit up. But yeah, I thought that scene to scene, there were some really good scenes. I think that's a pretty fun time at the movies. Like, if you're into dinosaur fights, like, I think that you'd like it. I don't think it's a great movie, but it was certainly better than Jurassic World 1. Brandon, what about you?
So it is certainly better than Jurassic World 1. Just like Incredibles, I watched Jurassic World 1 the night before. And not only is that movie like just as ridiculous and bad on the like storyline and the logic gaps, but it was way just like cheaper than I remember it. And Colin Trevorrow is just such a bland, not interesting director. And yeah, that Jurassic World 1 like really bothered me on a scene-to-scene basis. However, Jurassic World 2, while I think it's a terrible film, I think the director did like a really fantastic job with what he had, and even put together some like pretty memorable moments that kind of stand out to me. As like dumb and horrible as the bedroom scene is on a conceptual level, I think it was really cool, like how fun or like how playful he got with the cinematography and with the way like that scene was staged. The like, what is it, Brachiosaurus? I can't name that. The long neck dinosaur. When it was like walking, Brachiosaurus, yes. When it was walking out to the edge of the pier, like that was a pretty traumatic, like beautiful looking shot. I was like, holy shit, they went there, and that looked crazy good.
It was like emotional for a second. It was like totally emotional.
Kind of traumatic.
Oh, they're leaving the dinosaur behind. He's gonna get burned up by the volcano.
Yeah, it's silhouette in the steam, like, and the way the lava like lit it up orange behind it. It looked crazy good. Also, the scene with the sphere cube going off the edge of the cliff into the water, and the like single shot they did of them like almost drowning. In the glass. That was a really good sequence. With like the lava still shooting in, the dinosaurs falling all around them, like Chris Pratt getting hit in the shoulder by like probably some like volcanic rock that was still burning hot. All in one shot. Like that, like all these things are really visionary. And this is clearly a good director, just working with just the stupidest script you could possibly have.
Yeah. Sean, what about you?
I felt almost nothing while watching this movie. I don't think any of the jokes in this movie landed. I wasn't excited or exhilarated by any of the action scenes. There was like, I see that Brachiosaurus scene that was kind of that was pretty good. And I thought it was really strange. Maybe I didn't watch the right trailers, but I thought it was really weird to have not even the first act of the movie, or probably the first act of the movie on the island, and then they just leave to go to this really boring mansion. Like it seemed really strange to leave the island where seemingly so much could happen, and there was so much that you could do there, but then they just they leave that all behind, and for this really,
See, I thought
uninteresting.
I thought that part was pretty interesting, actually. I mean, this is the only Jurassic Park movie where the plot isn't we're stuck on the island and there's dinosaurs that are going to kill us, and so for me, getting off the island real quick and having it turn into this, crazy, genetic plot where they're selling dinosaurs at an underground auction for millions of dollars, although not enough millions of dollars. That to me at least was something different. That made the movie a little more fresh to me. Like if they were, again, just like on the island trying to figure out how to survive but get the dinosaurs off, it would have just been like another Jurassic Park movie. This at least was a departure.
I think kind of in between the two, I think they were at the mansion for a long time, and I think it was actually like a kind of interesting decision to put so much of the movie in such a confined space, and if it had been any other director, it probably would have been even worse, but they probably should have added another place for the climax. Like they were in that mansion for a good maybe 50 minutes of the film, and it was like a weird place to stick your characters for so much of a movie.
Well, on a plot level, it doesn't really make sense that they were at the mansion either. Like, I mean, I don't really want to get too far into
straight to that mansion. There was nothing in between.
And that's like, I don't know why they had to have that facility at that mansion. I mean,
Yeah.
we're getting into the details of the plot right now. It might be confusing for we're not trying to do spoilers here, but it didn't really. They could have had that facility anywhere.
I wonder how much better a version of this movie would be if they just dropped the genetic enhancing aspect of the film.
Yeah.
There's only like maybe 2 scenes that actually comes into play, and they're so bad, like when the dinosaur wakes up when the guy's in the cage. But besides that, like if they just got rid of that batshit crazy genetic enhancing part of the story and just had it be like real down to earth dinosaurs like Jurassic Park 1 and 2, I wonder how much that would improve the like realism and intensity of the film.
Yeah, I hear that. But I'm going to be that guy who says like I think that that's what these movies are, and I think that that's okay. Like I think that these movies are now about this genetic thing, and I for one am pretty excited about the next one where it's going to be like Jurassic War.
I'm so sad to say that I'm kind of excited for the third one as well.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna have it's gonna be an all-out like the different like Russia's gonna have their dinosaur army, like United States is gonna have their dinosaur army, and they're just gonna have they're just gonna go to war on each other. It's gonna be crazy.
That sounds like Jurassic World 4 or 5. I don't think we're quite army material yet.
Right, the next one's gonna be the Fast and Furious crossover. Right? Like, imagine that Dom Toretto driving alongside of a T-Rex, man, that's going to be pretty sweet too.
But for me, the whole genetic, cautionary tale about the dangers of genetic engineering is just really eye-rolly. And it felt kind of preachy, and
I didn't think they were preaching a single bit. Maybe I missed that. I mean, I see the parallel, of course. Like clearly it got out of hand, but I didn't necessarily see anything preachy about it.
The whole Malcolm, what's his name? Jeff Goldblum, whatever his name is. Like his whole speech was that's what it was all about. If we don't rein in our...
Oh, right. The bookends, right.
Yeah.
I think we can't end this review without bringing up how morally fucked the last 5 minutes of the movie is, and how unless they're like, and they're not going to, but none of the characters are going to be reconciled for it, and just how much they like doomed everything just by making that decision. And I don't think the movie's like concerned about that at all. I'm trying to be a little vague here, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
I don't. So, and that's another problem I had with the movie, with that ending, because they're clearly trying to go somewhere with that and set up a sequel, but I didn't buy that at all either. Like, I don't know. You can get into. I don't want to get into spoilers, but like that ending doesn't make any sense to set up a sequel.
Maybe they just have more like vegan priority morality than they do like human life of the planet morality.
Yeah.
Well,
that seemed to be the way they were going.
I think that like we can't have this conversation because we're not doing spoilers, because there's a very key part about what you're talking about. Like a certain character like did that certain thing because that certain character is who that certain character is, and
but
how
the other
she was
character
created.
Contemplated it.
Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah. It's okay to contemplate things, and
Jesus
even
Christ.
like, well, they don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like if like that's like the whole thing with Jurassic Park is like it's a pretty surface level movie with a like pseudo deep concept of like what's going to happen when the dinosaurs come back, and they like to tease that concept, but they don't actually like to really talk about it, really like say what the implications would be or anything. And I don't know, that's kind of how I took that ending, was that it was like, okay, well, that character made that choice, and now there's going to be more movies. So, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think that's probably 98% of the reason why they did it, because I'm excited for the third one, even though how much I hated that last moment. The third one's probably going to be the best way to take the direction of the series.
Okay, so real quick, was this movie fun though? Like, was it fun? Would you recommend it?
I thought it was a little long. It could have easily been 20 minutes shorter. I think I would have had a more pleasant experience. I would never recommend it. But there was enough like visual moments that kept me interested in watching.
No for me.
No, it wasn't fun. No, you wouldn't recommend it.
No. Correct.
Yeah, I would say it was pretty fun. And if you're looking for just like, dinosaurs at the box office, it delivers in that way. But it's also not a very good movie. So
I gave it 2 stars.
I did too.
I gave it 2.5, but I almost gave it 3. I almost gave it 3. Anyway, so that's Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. It's in theaters now. So we're going to talk about one more movie, and we are going to talk about our first thoughts on it, and then we're going to go into spoilers. That movie is the new A24 movie, Hereditary. It's a horror film starring Toni Collette and a few other people. Brandon, do you want to talk about your experience with this movie?
Yeah, I had a really weird time watching this film. So I was really looking forward to this because I heard a lot of hype for it, but it has been a long time since I've been in this disruptive of a theater. And it honestly, like, I don't even know what to think of the film because I was so distracted and also getting like so internally like annoyed. And the fact that like I couldn't say anything, they were too far away, and I couldn't just like tap on their shoulder in front of me or something. And it wasn't just like one group, like people were laughing, people were shouting all throughout the theater, and I was so frustrated. So I actually didn't even like review this movie yet. And I don't too often like rewatch movies the same year, but this is one movie as soon as I can, I'm going to go out and check out again. And I'm pretty excited to. I think I don't know if this movie was scary or not because I was so taken out of the experience. And I'm curious to see if we can make sense of any of the plot details or even if it's worth trying to make sense of. But there's clearly an amazing like visual eye on this film, and there's some absolutely brilliant scenes that were just jaw-droppingly crafted that we can't talk about until we get into spoilers. So that's kind of where I am at this movie.
Okay, interesting. Do you want to talk more about how distracting it was, like specifically, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's just people who. There were just like a handful of people who thought like it was their job to be like comedians throughout the film, and
wow.
And I think also the film completely lost the audience in the second half when it's really mattered, and nobody cared at all at that point, and just everyone was just like laughing and shouting, and it just like turned into a mess in the theater.
Sean, what do you think? What were your thoughts of the movie?
Yeah, I really liked it, and I think as I think about it more, I'm liking it even more conceptually. I think right off the bat with this movie, I felt like it was a little clunky, and there was some weird dialogue and some weird moments, and I was jolted into emotionally getting into this movie really quick with that one scene, which I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And if you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It happens very quickly, and the movie takes a turn. And from that point on, I was really into it for most of the rest of the movie. I think the movie kind of slows down and dawdles a little bit at parts in the middle. but the ending, people are talking about it a lot. It really worked for me. I'm not going to say anything more than that. But yeah, I liked the movie. Really enjoyed it. We saw it for some reason I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt and sandals in the theater, and I was freezing cold while watching the movie, but the movie was so intense and so scary that I was sweating. And like for me, all the horror worked really, really well. There were scenes in the movie that I felt like, oh, this has been done before. And then when they actually get into the scenes, I was, very quickly realized that they were doing it in a very new and interesting way. Yeah, it's a brilliantly put together movie. The direction is pretty top notch, especially for a first time director. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And the acting, Toni Collette was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I think I'm mostly with Sean. I think I'm mostly with Sean on this one. Maybe a little less enthusiastic about it. It was definitely not at all the movie that I thought it was going to be. Like, it took a lot of twists and turns that I was not expecting. And like in the middle, it was really just sad and not really much of a horror movie at all. Like, I kind of forgot that I was watching a horror movie, and it was just like a really just like sad family drama. Like, it was like Manchester by the Sea there for a little bit. And yeah, then the horror like picked up big time. And like, I personally kind of lost my fear. Like I told Sean, like, at some point I stopped really being afraid of the movie, but I was still really giddy and excited about it. Like, I was on the edge of my seat with just like watching the horror kind of come together. And I was like, I wonder how they're going to scare us, just kind of excited about it. Less scared than excited. Less scared, more excited. But I still think that a lot of things would scare people. And I will be honest that it has like stayed with me in that, like, I'll turn off the light at night and then I'll look down the hallway and I'll be like, and I'll think I'll see something, but obviously nothing's there. But like, it's because I just watched a really scary movie and it's stuck in my head. Yeah, so I think it was a very effective horror movie. Anyway, I would recommend it for people who like horror movies. It was really creative. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I definitely thought it had a lot of really interesting ideas in it, and a lot of creativity. So we're going to go into spoilers now, because this movie had a lot of crazy stuff happen in the ending, and we want to sort it out. So we're going into spoilers. Spoilers for Hereditary. Stop listening if you don't want to be spoiled. So, spoilers starting now.
I want to talk about like how good the direction of the horror moments were. The one that sticks out to me is the first scary moment in the movie, which is the like still ghost in the attic.
Yeah.
Is that moment in the attic when you see the ghost just like of her mother there faded in the dark corner. Yeah. Right when I saw that, like, it just made me freeze, and nothing even comes of it or happens in that scene. She just turns on the lights and it's gone. But like visually, it's perfect. The way later on, just like the glass moves across the table, or the like little gust of wind like blows across her hair. It gets like the detail and the camera movement so perfectly that it just feels like super grounded, even though you're like watching a paranormal like event happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kept happening over and over again in the movie.
Like, it kind of made me believe in ghosts a little bit.
I think it's one of the best realizations of like paranormal events.
Yeah.
I've seen in a long time.
That's the scene I was talking about. The scene that I thought was a little kind of might have gone a little cliche, like a seance scene. We've seen it a million times before in horror movies. But yeah, I as soon as they got into it, it proved to be very scary and really unique.
And her reaction to what was going on, holy crap, her acting is so good. She's just so normal, she can't believe it's happening. But she's still seeing it in front of her eyes. And we have to talk about the decapitation scene. There's so many choices in those 4 minutes that are unbelievable. The what you see and what you don't see, and the kids acting and him barely looking up in the rearview mirror, but then just looking straight forward and driving home, all that. Oh my God, I could not believe they went there, and that they didn't even show it for 5 minutes. I heard that horrible shot of her head. That was absolutely ingenious.
Yeah, I really liked the part before that where she was banging her head against the wall trying to get in. I thought that was a really stark image of just a
oh wait, no, I'm talking about the car.
Oh shoot, sorry. I thought you were talking about the end.
But your scene too, where she's fucking slicing her gullet open with a fish wire.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, but your scene too. I liked how the head was covered in ants, and then they brought that back later on in her dream where the son's head had ants coming out of it. That was really good.
The gasoline dripping down her forehead at the very end of the dream sequence, and right when you realize what's going on, it just cuts. As soon as the gasoline really starts pouring down, and you realize it's not sweat.
Yeah. So I thought some of it was a little silly, though. I thought the movie did trail off into silliness a little bit in the end. Okay, so that moment that I was talking about earlier, where the body was in the corner when the son woke up, he looks around and she's just floating in the corner of the room. And everyone jumped, and then I jumped, and then she kind of swims away in the air, and that part, the swimming away in the air, was kind of silly, and
the way it looked, or what was happening.
Both, the way it looked and what was happening, it just was okay, so this is silly, and Toby, we saw it with, my friend Toby, and Toby said that he was once they can do anything, it loses a lot of stakes, so
100% agree.
And it's okay, so if they're just flying around, if there's naked people everywhere, if there's just a cult, just okay, so our characters are gonna lose. They're going to get tortured. They're going to die. We can just accept that at this point. It, loses all tension of, worrying about the characters because just, okay, well, they're dealing with, unstoppable supernatural creatures and, okay, game over sort of thing.
Yeah, while the movie was progressing, I was thinking to myself, I was having such a hard time keeping track of, what paranormal events this demon could actually do. And it never repeated. It just kept doing new things every time they wanted to scare you. And it felt like a really strange decision. I mean, from the very beginning of it appearing as an apparition in the attic, to the bird flying into the window, to the kid looking at his reflection. Even though that scene was great, the kid looks at his reflection and then something looks back at him and smiles, and then it smashes his head against the desk.
Well, and then there's that there's that flashing light that's going all over the room, and you're
fucking light.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty
one after
silly.
another. There's just new concepts being thrown at you, and none of them relate to each other. There's it's not grounded with, I guess, rules of the world.
Well, and that's why the ending is kind of so crazy and so out there, because it doesn't really. The movie doesn't really give you a trail to follow up until to know what's happening until you you don't really know what's happening at the end until like the final thing is happening, and then you're like, oh, okay. So it's like, and they're in a cult, and I shouldn't say a cult. It's like a cult. It's okay. It's witchcraft, and they're doing this crazy thing, and it's still pretty confusing to me because, I mean, I think I've deciphered what happens at the end, but it's pretty confusing because they don't really let you go along with it. They just kind of throw it all together.
So I'm actually a little confused at what people are confused about. I thought walking out, I still thinking about. I thought it was maybe not necessarily self-explained. Like, I don't know how, she was flying or whatever, but I thought it all fit together really well.
Well, tell me why when she throws the book in the fire, it burns her arm.
Like, there really aren't rules. Like, that was just the demon set her on fire, and then when she tried to burn the book, she set
him on fire.
Him on fire. It's a conscious being. It's not like, whereas they thought that there were all these rules, and that was another thing that I in the moment I didn't really like thinking, if we destroy this book, the spirit's attached to the book, and that's kind of a cliche, supernatural thing. But then it like just kind of was like, no, there's not really rules for that. Like, why would that be the case? Like, the book, she needs the book, the spirit needs the book to stay there, or the demon needs the book to stay. That doesn't really make any sense.
Definitely needed it to summon it.
Well, they needed the book to summon it,
right?
But
it's not attached.
Like,
to the book.
why does it attach to this
book?
The book
to summon it though? Like, I thought the book
why
was
does
just
it?
like.
Why does the book care if it's burned or not? And why isn't it just burning whoever it wants to begin with?
Well, so how I saw the movie,
fire to burn the guy.
How I saw the movie, and this might be kind of a criticism of the movie, is that once the demon was summoned, the movie turned from like a story about from family dealing with grief to, and then like this cult, or this devil worshipping witchcraft cult, setting up all these things to try and get the spirit of their demon leader into this new body. And it turned to, okay, that's done. It's already happened. Now this is just kind of the process of that spirit invading this body. And that's kind of how I saw the last part of the movie.
Was it in his body as soon as the seance happened?
No, it was. They summoned
how come it
and
smiled
from then on,
back at him and then smashed his face into a desk?
Well, it's simply the process of it wiggling its way. I don't have a good descriptive words, but it's just like there's a supernatural process from once the demon was summoned for that demon to fully be, I don't know, for lack of better words, absorbed by the body. And that was just kind of this gross, disgusting, disturbing, terrifying process for the rest of the movie. I thought it was a fairly simple, and I don't.
Well,
right.
What about?
That's a good explanation, and then after that, it has the problem, like you agree with it just being random.
Well, what about the girl though? Like, so the demon first went into the girl, and then the girl and the demon went into the boy?
Well, so she is like the Antichrist. She is...
No, the Antichrist is in her.
Well, the way I read it, and I think maybe if you did more research, my guess is that this demon or whatever it is based on some kind of some kind of folklore.
Yeah, it's like Wiccan,
something that actually,
paganism.
Wiccan belief that that the movie's based on, and so maybe if you looked into that more, you would understand the specifics. But
that was actually
the way I kind of saw it is like the Antichrist. So like the concept of the Antichrist is that it's kind of like Jesus, like Christ, where it's the devil incarnate born on earth, right? It's like this devil incarnate was born as this girl, but then maybe they said like her body was broken for whatever reason.
No.
So they had to get the spirit of this demon spirit of this girl into the new.
Sorry, Sean. I think you're missing some pieces because
It's more complicated
they didn't
than
go
that.
to the girl until the grandmother died, because the grandmother was the carrier of the demon.
Well, so they said there was a suicide, right? What was the other one? You said the grandfather,
the uncle's was
committed
like,
suicide.
He thought there was
died.
like humans inside of his stomach or something.
No, that was the son. Like, or I guess an uncle, but like it'd be, yeah. He committed suicide because he said that the mom, the grandma, was putting demons or putting people inside of her.
Yeah, and I think that was the grandma originally was trying to get him to be the host, and he ended up killing himself or dying. Right. Okay. I think this is pulling hairs.
I mean, it's clearly confusing though, Sean. Like, it's clearly like I don't think it's fair for you to say that it's not confusing, because so for me, I think the movie maybe purposefully has a lot of red herrings. Like it makes you think it's going to go in a certain direction, but then it doesn't go in that direction. And I don't know if I think it's purposeful, but like, for example, I from the beginning, the doll houses, like the tiny furniture and houses that she makes, like you can't help but think like, oh, how is this going to play into it? Turns out it doesn't at all. That's just her job. Like that's just what she does. There's like a few things like that.
Just a creepy job.
Yeah, I kept thinking that the other lady, the lady with the welcome mat that helps summons her, I kept thinking that she was trying to put her son into, the boy's, the main character boy's body. Like, that's just what I kept thinking, because it was like I thought it was just like an idea of, bringing people back and putting them into other people's bodies. And that's why it was like, oh, the other guy committed suicide because of bodies, or because people were being put inside of him. And so I think the movie had a lot of threads, and it wanted you to think like, oh, maybe this is where it's going. Maybe this is where it was going. But it turns out that it had to do with this Antichrist, and, who knows how the Antichrist came back, and who knows what what powers they really have, because the movie doesn't really feel like it needs to explain, the specifics of those things. But, that's what happened. Like, it turns out it's an Antichrist thing. Turns out that, the girl either was the Antichrist or is embodied with the Antichrist, and she took over her brother's body, and they're all going to worship her. The end.
Yep.
There's one moment that's so small, but it kind of is the one thing that really pisses me off, because it's so random and unexplainable, but they just threw it in there to like jab at everybody. Was earlier on in the film, the telephone pole having the symbol of the cult on it.
Well, I think
if they could have planned all that out
to
purposely kill the daughter.
Well, I think that's what they were trying to like say, is that some sort of supernatural, like benevolent, like predestination sort of thing happened, where like the girl was like, that's what was going to happen to the girl, because that's what they planned on a supernatural level, like no explanation. But I think that's what they were trying to say was,
okay, so you're thinking more on a supernatural level, not that like these cult members are just people though. I figured they etched that into the telephone pole.
Yeah, maybe they did.
I didn't get any Destiny vibes from this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's like they definitely wanted you to make a connection that, that pole was benevolent on some level. Like that pole was part of the cult, and it helped contribute to all the bad things that happened that night. But yeah, I mean,
I guess
this movie offers no explanations.
So that's one thing I don't. That's a thing I don't understand. about the movie. So I didn't notice that while I was watching the movie. It didn't mean anything to me at the time. Seeing that on the telephone pole, which is kind of weird because I guess I read the movie as, because at the end they said that your body was broken and so we got you a new body. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize while I was watching the movie that the entire time they were trying to get that to happen. If they planned for her to die, to kill, to have her body die, and so that they could put it into the boy. That's not what I thought was happening in the movie. I thought that her body was broken because he killed her. And so then it was these people trying to get that spirit into a new body. But that doesn't really make any sense with the telephone pole being marked or whatever that was saying.
She was broken before then. It was unhappy being in her body. It didn't like it.
Yeah. But I guess I don't know what that means or.
Yeah. I'm just like, and they didn't even have to go there. I'm just like, fuck you for putting that symbol on that telephone pole. Like, she could have just randomly died and it would have been fine. But no one can explain that. You, writer, can't even explain that.
It was summoning destiny.
I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it sounds like we all thought the movie was really scary and creative. Just maybe the ideas came together better for some of us than others. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. It was brilliantly crafted, but script level stuff, which seems to be happening a lot.
Well, I mean, I'd rather have like a lot of creative ideas and have it be like, all over the place than just bland, I guess. Blandness.
Yeah, so, I'll agree. For sure.
Like, I'm happy this movie got made. I'm glad we saw it. It's like, I feel like we're in a really good place with horror movies right now. So, that's pretty cool. Like, it seems like there's just a lot of creative ones that are coming out lately. So, anyway, so that movie is Hereditary. It's still in the theaters now. See it if you like horror movies. So now, real quick, we're going to go through some movies that we're looking forward to that are coming out next month or later this month. And we're probably going to be talking about them on our next episode. So I wanted to bring up Uncle Drew. That comes out June 29th. This movie is really funny, and I can't believe it's a movie. Uncle Drew started out as a Sprite commercial. And it was basically like Kyrie Irving, the NBA star, was in old person makeup, and he went to the court and he played basketball with a bunch of young people and just beat them really bad. And so when I first saw when I saw the trailer for this movie, I thought, is this a real movie or is it another commercial? But there wasn't any Sprite in the trailer at all. So I was like, what the hell's happening? Turns out it is a real movie. And there's a bunch of other basketball players in it, like Shaquille O'Neal and Reggie Miller and Nate Robinson and Chris Webber. But like Nick Kroll is in it too, and Tiffany Haddish. I don't know. I just think it looks really fun and ridiculous, and I'm for some reason really excited about it. So that comes out June 29th.
Yeah, and another film that comes out June 29th is Sicario, Day of the Soldado. This has a unknown quantity of a director. It's one of his first times. However, the writer is on a streak right now and did Sicario 1. He did Hell or High Water after that, and then did Wind River. And so now this director is returning to do the sequel to Sicario. Did I say director? This writer is returning to do the sequel to Sicario. So with that track record, I'm pretty excited to watch the sequel.
Yeah, me too. I mean, really, that's probably the more like important movie to see if you're going to see a movie on June 29th. But yeah, Uncle Drew or Sicario, you couldn't get more different. So on July 4th, The First Purge is coming out, which is the prequel to the Purge series. I actually really like these movies. They're Blumhouse movies, so they're produced on small budgets, and then the concept is pretty fun. It's like I don't know if you guys have seen them, but crime is legal, and for 24 hours or just overnight or something, and people just go crazy and kill each other, and it's pretty ridiculous. Honestly, I don't know if I've seen the first Purge movie, but I've seen the second and third ones, and so this will be the fourth one. It's a prequel, so I'm pretty excited about the first Purge, I think. And when I say I haven't seen the first Purge, I mean I haven't seen the first one that came out. But
so confusing.
Anyway, July 4th, go see the Purge. The first Purge. Also, later that weekend on July 6th, the new Marvel movie comes out, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I just rewatched the first Ant-Man, and I was so surprised. I've seen it before, but I forgot how much fun it was. It totally has a different vibe than a lot of the other Marvel movies. It hardly takes itself seriously. There's just a lot of jokes. It's a heist movie. It's on a much smaller scale than the other ones. And coming off of Infinity War, where the entire universe is on the balance. Thor's trying to kill everybody, and it's every single Avenger is there. I think it'll be just fun and refreshing to just have a small Ant-Man story, and the Wasp being in it will be really fun. And this also, it should be noted, this takes place before Infinity War, so it might explain why Ant-Man's not in that movie. I'm also excited about a movie called Blindspotting. I don't really know too much about it, except that it was playing at the Seattle International Film Festival, and a bunch of people I know went and saw it, and they all said it was really, really great. It got tremendous buzz around Seattle, and I missed it, but it's getting a wide release on July 20th. So I just wanted to bring that up and say keep your eyes open for that one.
Yeah, I recently saw a trailer for that, one of the previous films I saw, and the trailer looks really good. And it has 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I think this is going to be one of the better critical films of the month of July.
Also coming out on July 27th, there's Mission Impossible Fallout. I'm rewatching all the Mission Impossible movies. I've watched the first 3, and they're a ton of fun, especially the first one. And it's kind of cool how varied the movies are in their style and kind of what they're going for. The first one was very much trying to be an adaptation of the original TV series, and in how it was structured and kind of the subject matter and everything. And it was directed by Brian De Palma. But then the second one was just totally abandoned that concept and went with John Woo to make a movie that was just oozing with style. There was a shot in that movie that was looking through an open door. The door frame was on fire. There were sparks flying through the background. Tom Cruise walks by in slow motion, and a dove flies through the door.
Oh, it's John Woo. There's got to be doves, man. There's got to be doves.
Yeah, it is such a John Woo movie.
I used to love that movie.
Yeah, it's actually my second favorite of the movies I've seen so far. It might even be my second favorite of the series.
Have you just watched 1, 2 so far?
1, 2, and 3.
So I have to confess,
thought it was better than 3.
So guess what the only Mission Impossible movie I haven't seen is? Well, don't guess.
First one?
It's number 4.
Oh.
And I'm deeply ashamed of that.
I haven't seen 3 or 4, Brandon. So I'm right there with you. Isn't 4
supposed to be it's Brad Bird? Isn't it supposed to be the best one?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say.
I've seen 1, 2, 3,
I thought 3
5, and
was
6, and 5.
I think people are pretty all over the place. 3 is J.J. Abrams, and it's really good too. But the first one is just classic. It's definitely has the most memorable scene in it, and
I like the first one a lot. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite.
And I did dig number 5, and so I am pretty excited for Fallout.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it.
So, yeah, and this is the first one where it's the same director as the previous movie. So,
Yeah.
the guy who did the 5th one is coming back for the 6th one. Anyway, so those are the movies that we're excited about for the month of July. So be sure to pay attention for our next episode. Should be coming out late July. In the meantime, go to the movies. Check out the ones that we've talked about or the ones that we're looking forward to. So that's wrapping us up. Brandon, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Letterboxd at Beb, B-E-B, or you can follow me at Instagram, Brandon_Bulby.
Sean, what about you?
You can find me on Letterboxd at Bulbinator2.
Cool. And yeah, I'm on Letterboxd at Mothman23. Follow us. We watch a lot of movies, and Letterboxd is a really fun way to keep track of what you and your friends are watching. So check that out. And with that, we're just going to say goodbye. So catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.